Hey, beautiful people. Andrew the Realtor here with my December 2022, the last of the year, housing market update specifically for my friends at Willowdale and Newtonbrook East. And I'm trying to make this fast because I am coming in later towards the latter half of December. I wanted to wait for the final inflation numbers before I get to that. So I'll be mentioning that. I'll be talking specifically about some local area stuff that I know a lot of you guys will have, well, it will be pertaining to you guys, information about the new act about foreign investment and foreign real estate purchase here in Canada. That's something that's happening in January 1st, which is coming up soon. In fact, you might be reading this and it's already January. So before I get to anything, real quick, let me minimize myself and get right on with the program. So I always appreciate you guys' time for this. So I always mention my intent is to bring valuable information specifically locally to that area. I find that there's not a lot of people online on YouTube that are doing it specifically for folks at Willowdale and Newtonbrook East. Very high demand area of North Toronto, North York, that not a lot of people, well, a lot of people know about, not a lot of people know information about. So always please hit like and subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit like and subscribe, please, because all it does is it allows you to be notified every time a new market update comes up. I do one general one for the GTA. It's bigger, has more encompassing of all the information of the GTA. You can find that on YouTube as well, on my YouTube channel. But specifically for you guys, so hit like and subscribe, please. And always in the description and the video at the bottom, you'll find links to not only being able to subscribe, but also have a program that notifies you every time somebody sells in your area. It's free. It's totally easy for you. I make it automatic, so you don't have to actually call or do anything to do it. However, you just have to log in on the website and put in your information, your address, and it'll automatically come to you. So there's that. It's very valuable. If you have any questions, obviously you contact me. So I'm trying to make this as valuable for you guys as possible. Also, I might add, in the beginning of the month, you do have a newsletter that comes out via mail, an actual physical newsletter. It has two QR codes. One is to that program that you can put in your data, your information, your address, and it tells you what's been sold in the area. The other one takes you to this, actually the playlist, where the most recent housing market update for the area. You can click on that and listen to this. So again, without further ado, let's get it right into the program here. So next thing, this is the first thing I wanted to mention. So I know, having spoken to a lot of you, I was probably in the middle of December last time that I was out before the weather got particularly cold. I was out last week. I think I was in Willowdale East specifically, talking to some neighbors, and this idea of possibility of issues with those that have more than one property, or specifically people that are foreigners, not Canadians, purchasing real estate. And this is a biggie, and it's convoluted, so I'm not going to include all the information here. However, it's important for you guys to know that there is a Purchase of Residential Property by Non-Canadians Act. It was put in June of 23rd. At least it was put forward in terms of information. It's going into effect specifically on January 1st, 2023. So very soon. If you're watching this in December, it's soon. If you're watching it in January, it's already in play. And so it does not apply to Canadian citizens. It applies to non-Canadians, as you can see here, directly or indirectly purchasing residential property in Canada for a period of 2 years. It's a freeze because, well, if I may be very blunt, foreign investors have been kind of a scapegoat in terms of the housing market in the GTA, and because the government does need somebody to blame, a large portion usually goes to foreign investment. If you want to get down to the brass tacks, if you actually want to get down to the numbers of how many people are actually purchasing, how many foreigners are purchasing in the GTA, and what percentage of normal purchases is that group, it's usually very tiny. Last time I checked, it was in the single digits, somewhere around 2, 3, 4% of actual transactions. But even that number still has to be looked into, because some of those people are foreigners, but they're buying for somebody who's here, and that kind of thing. So the important thing is it's happening January 1st. It applies to non-Canadians, to residential property. It applies to direct or indirect purchases of residential property. So it's something important. And establishes penalties for non-compliance to non-Canadians. So there's a penalty, never mind the tax that you have to pay. In terms of the foreign investor tax, that's a different subject. So important, on Wednesday, December 21st, the same day we had the inflation numbers come in, and I'll talk about that in a second, the federal government released the supporting regulations. So the only reason I mention this, even for the seasoned veterans like myself, and people who have been in the business even longer, even lawyers, this is a convoluted, somewhat difficult to understand act, because there's a lot of stipulants. So in some sense, this is going to affect some people. In some sense, it isn't, because there are a lot of exemptions, I should say, to this specific thing. If you have questions, contact me. My contact info is all around. Feel free to call. Chances are I'll probably bump into you outside anyway when the weather is better, because I'll be out in the neighborhood door knocking, saying hello to folks in the area. However, my contact info, give me a shout. If nothing else, I can forward you the information to the website, the official Canada website that has all the details. So that's important, because I know a lot of you folks, obviously North York in general, but certainly Willowdale, Newtonbrook, a lot of foreigners, a lot of people that are like myself, not born in Canada, immigrants here or other kind of statuses. This might be important to you or maybe someone that you know, maybe a fellow countryman or something like that. By the way, so let's get to okay the actual numbers of November. So this is specifically to C14, as we realtors know. That's Willowbrook, Newtonbrook, and Willowdale East specifically. So very brief. Obviously, the numbers are much lower in terms of sales. This is what you've probably been hearing, but I've got some great news on other numbers. Notice I didn't put any red because there's nothing particularly bad. Now, sales are obviously going to be down. We had 64 sales properties altogether, condos and homes, in November of 22 last month. But in November 21, we had 160. That was a crazy time leading into a crazier time in the beginning of this year, 2022. So 60% lower, that's actually not bad. Overall, the year is a pretty normal year, not unlike 2018, which was a kind of a slow to moderate year. And this is what this year was. So it's much more normal than you would hear on the news or anything else. So that's not a big deal. Notice the green, that's a goal. Positive. Average price went up 12% from November of 2021. Now, average price always needs to be taken into consideration. Well, taken it with a grain of salt. And you guys already know that if you follow any of my updates from this or even my general GTA one. Here's what. Newtonbrook and Willowdale, you guys know homes are on the pricier side, generally speaking, in the GTA. They're on the pricier side. And so depending on what sells, it could really change the average. So for example, if one particular month, more detached homes, maybe say nicer, newer detached homes in say Willowdale, sold than condos, the average price would be much higher. So one or two higher sales versus less condo sales on a given month could change the average. But the point of this is not so much the 12%, because again, it's taken with a grain of salt, depends on the month. So the idea that it's not minus something, the idea that the prices in Willowdale and Newtonbrook have maintained really well, that's actually a bit of a positive thing you guys should know, because chances are you're hearing the news, negative, bubble burst, da. What you should be hearing is the market has been pretty flat, pretty steady since the very, very beginning of summer. From June to July, there was a drop because there was a big drop from January all the way to June. But since July and we're around December, things have been pretty normal. In fact, our area doing particularly well, up 12% that particular month. Something worthwhile to remember. So detached especially, again, checking out the averages, up 10%. I think it was down last month. Don't quote me. I can't remember. I don't have the numbers in front of me. But the idea is that not that it's up 10% across the board. That's the way the year has been. No, it's been up and down. But the idea is that generally speaking, it's not down as you might hear. The market's been pretty resilient. I always like to tell people, especially homeowners in areas like Willowdale and Newtonbrook, where there's got lots of equity, the market's actually doing fairly well. Yes, it's not the same as it was in the beginning of the year, but compared to last year, decent. Compared to 2 or 3 years ago, so much better. And of course, I always mention condos. Not surprised, that's why it's green, it's blue, but it's up 9%. Condos have been so steady, generally speaking, in price. Yes, they've gone down certainly from the beginning of the year, but versus last year, or versus the year before, 2020, big difference. Condos are really maintained. Probably affordability is one of those big things. So something interesting, no semis sold this year. Beginning of the year was, but certainly nothing in November. And this asterisk, this minus 20%, this is a condo townhouse, only one that sold. So again, this average, I put it in here as a number, but it's not very important, so I wouldn't put that. Here's the thing for you guys. A lot less sales, normal, and average price. Average price for detached. That's pretty incredible. Resilient area housing market. Inflation numbers. That's why I did this later in December. So we went down from 6.9 to 6.8 as of December 21st, just before Christmas this year. So not great. Again, people that are doing this probably be fired. People in charge of this, keeping the inflation down, which they clearly didn't. But at least we're at the same point as we were in April of 2022. The point of showing you this is, again, my own theory and the theory of several people more smarter and more influential than myself, that the interest rates will, in fact, start taking a downturn sometime in late spring, maybe summer, because eventually this number, the 6.8, is going to go down. So once it goes down to in the 5s, or maybe, God willing, in the 4s, sometime in spring or summer, at some point in time, the government's attachment, and here's what it is. I mentioned here, as inflation goes down, the political pressure to stop reversing rates will go up. Is there a possibility of one more rate increase? Possibly, but it's not very likely. We already won 0.5, which is more than the 0.25 that everyone's thinking, including myself. I was wrong on that. I thought it was going to be a quarter. It went a full half in December up. I don't know how much more it's going to go. The pressure is building, politically speaking. And we're not going to see the full effects of it because it's the holidays and things are kind of slow naturally anyway. So Again, as I mentioned, expecting interest rates, me personally, expecting interest rates to go down mid, late spring, maybe early summer. Um, I'm not only hoping for so, but in all seriousness, I'm thinking that this will happen, and I have some good reasons to know. As you can see out in the market, already people are starting to say, let's take it down, slow down. This is a bit much, especially over 1 year, the incredible increase in interest rates that we've had. So that'll affect our area obviously as well. All this means that the market will likely continue as it is, and that's what it has been. You'll notice up a little bit, down a little bit, so it's been flattened, not nowhere near the crash or anything that it was certainly in the beginning of the year, but in general, housing market is very strong in the GTA, especially in places like Newtonbrook and Willowdale East. Current opportunities. This is what's important to you guys specifically. Never mind the tax stuff. Overall sales in 22 will be close to 2018. That's what I've said up in the past few months after I corrected myself, and that's what it's going to be. 2018 was about 78,000 sales in the GTA. This year we'll have probably about 75, 76, something like that. So very much there. So even during the holidays, during bad weather, things are still moving. That's important for people to know if they're all involved in the real estate market. Opportunity is still there. And this is the same as I mentioned last month. Move up buyers from condos moving up are winning. You saw what condos are doing, and that's across the board. Upsizers also still winning because chances are the cheaper products have maintained better in price versus the higher luxury end stuff. Not entirely everywhere. That's the general rule GTA wide. Specifically for our area, you'll notice how resilient things have been going. So for us, moving from a more bulletproof area like Newtonbrook, like Willowdale, to a area that has been harder hit, parts of Durham, parts of Scarborough, for example, parts of Etobicoke, what you're going to find is an interesting effect that you're selling in a bulletproof area, you're actually still winning because you're buying something. If you have to move for some reason, I mean, we live in a gray area. I don't know why anybody would want to move, but people do sell, move elsewhere. You're probably going to win because the equity you've built in the home that you have in this area, Willowdale, Newtonbrook, has maintained better than that other area. So you're actually probably winning, even if it's a lateral move from one typical size house to another very typical size house. So there are some opportunities there. Again, moving up, very important. If it's a lateral move from Newtonbrook or Willowdale, there's a good possibility you're actually going to win, even despite the costs of moving, land transfer tax, lawyers, realtors, moving costs, those kinds of things. Still, you might actually still win, only because our area has done so particularly well in terms of maintaining value. So opportunities definitely abound. And as always, my intent in finishing this up, I want to thank you. My intent always to provide valuable information. That's a biggie. I want to, if nothing else, the way the housing market is constantly negative, negative, negative on the news, my version is quite the opposite. It's not rosy colored, rose-colored glasses. It's nothing overly optimistic. It's just the reality of it. The reality is, especially in areas like Willowdale and Newtonbrook, the area has done particularly well. It has maintained fairly well. Yes, some homes have been sitting in the market. As a matter of fact, it's one of the things I've been mentioning the past month or so while I was outside in the better weather, talking to homeowners. Do you know anyone who's looking to buy into the area? Because there are some homes that are worth selling. They're great homes and just have not been sold yet because people are afraid, people are interest rates, people are not listening to positive messages or realistic messages like I'm giving you here and listening to more negative stuff on the news, TV24, whatever else you might find, with all due respect. So please hit like and subscribe. I have a program underneath, link, click on it. You can just put in your address. No one's going to spam you. It's me, Andrew, that gets the information. If anyone contacts you, it's me, even if I do. And usually it's automatic. I try to leave people alone unless they need information, which I try to provide in these things. So hopefully that was of some value to you. Wish you guys, at this point, I don't know when time you're watching. So, hey, happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas to you. Very happy New Year. I hope, as I tell everybody, that you have taken some time off, and I tell it to everyone I meet over the holidays because it's important. Last year, or 2022, was a difficult year, a lot of work, stressful year, and 2023 does seem to be a little more normal looking, but who knows what will come. So I wish you guys the best. Thank you for watching these. I hope they've been of value. I'll see you in December, and if maybe in person, maybe in video here. All the best.